إن كنتم صادقين. فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم. وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين. وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم. إن هذا لهو حق اليقين. فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا. وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة. وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة. والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم. ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين. على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين. يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين. لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون. وفاكهة مما يتخيرون. ولحم طير مما يشتهون. وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما. وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين. في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب. وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة. وفرش مرفوعة. إنا
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. Brothers and sisters, respected Shaykh Usama Abdulghani, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And once again, alhamdulillah, we welcome everybody on behalf of the Light of Guidance to the continuation of our series with respected Shaykh, reclaiming the narrative on Islamic beliefs based on the teachings of the Holy Quran. Inshallah, to begin our program, we're going to welcome Brother Muhammad Abbas to recite from the Holy Quran. If we can welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها، لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا. أنت مولانا. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا. وارحمنا أنت مولانا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس. الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر. سبحان الله سبحان الله عما يشركون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
أفلح من أعاد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. صلي على محمد. Inshallah, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome our dear and respected Shaykh Usama Abdulghani with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back everybody. We are now continuing where we left off, where we were talking about Quranic tawheed. But before we do that, I'd like to remind us all, give us a spiritual reminder of the month that we're about to begin. It's good to know what we're getting into before we get into it, so we're able to take advantage of it to the maximum. So brothers and sisters, the month that's about to begin is the month of Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah is one of those special months of Allah. Now, this special time began with the month of Dhul Qa'dah. It's a 40-day period. And these last 10 days correspond with the end of the 10 days when Nabi Musa alayhi salam received the alwah. He received the tablets. Now the Urafa give us instructions on how to take the most or get the most benefit from these 40 days that would have began in Dhul Qa'dah. But even then, Dhul Hijjah, the first 10 days are extremely important, so I want to just give some reminders about this. But before that, just a little bit of a reminder about the issue of the communion. When Nabi Musa went to speak to God. It's mentioned multiple times in the Quran, and it said that Nabi Musa began his journey by selecting 70 of the best of his people. According to some, they say there were 700,000 of Bani Israel at that time, and he selected 70 men who were the best of the people. After that, he began his journey. And he took these men and he went to the sacred valley. Once they arrived in the sacred valley, Nabi Musa told them to remove their shoes. And for 30 days and nights, these individuals were praying and worshiping. Especially, of course, Nabi Musa, who's getting ready to be addressed by God himself. What some of the ahadith tell us is this. After the 30 days was over, because originally it was supposed to take place in 30 days, this great event would take place. But Bada happened, right? From our side, from us as human beings, it seems the will of Allah changed. Allah made it, instead of 30, to be 40 days. One ayat of the Quran says, وَوَاعَدْنَا مُوسَى ثَلَاثِينَ لَيْلَةً. We made an appointment for Musa. We appointed for him 30 nights, وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ. And then we made it complete by adding 10 more. So at that stage, once he got to the end, when he's going to go meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now Nabi Musa separates himself from those men who've been worshiping, because he had appointed his brother, Nabi Harun, to be in charge. But then now, he's taking care of the people, but then even those individuals who've now been worshiping and praying, he separates from them and he goes himself to that original tree where he spoke to God. And then he receives, of course, the tablets. So, just a little bit to remind ourselves about these days. So, when Dhul Hijjah begins, the first 9 days are incredible days for fasting. Let's say there's someone who has qadha fast. I need to do them anyway. I would like to make up for them. Fasting for those first 9 days is equivalent to fasting for one's lifetime. So that's fasting. In addition to that, there's going to be a special prayer that you would offer between Maghrib and Isha. I remember in Iran, the prayer was so established in many masajid, everybody would get up after the prayer and everybody would do it, because the prayer, it's an easy prayer. You'll find, inshallah, the details in Mafatih al-Janan. But if you do that prayer for those 10 days, the 10 evenings, then you become a partner in the thawab of the Hujjaj. So whatever reward they're getting, you become the sharik in that. Of course, there's special du'as during this time. And brothers and sisters, the day of Arafah, the night of Arafah for A'mal is also very important. The A'mal that we can do, but just knowing how significant the night is. And then, of course, the day of Arafah, we're hoping, inshallah, to perhaps have Dua Arafah and have it recited here. Inshallah, we can do that as a community. The last thing that the Arafah mentioned is that on the last day of the Hijjah, there's a small amal that you can find this in Mafalih Janan. And what happens is, if you can do this before the new Islamic year begins, before Muharram begins, Iblis will say that all of my work has been undone. There's a small prayer and some amal that we can do on the last day that will undo everything that Iblis has done. Inshallah, we can take advantage of this month and use it to better ourselves. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so now, brothers and sisters, we're going to continue with where we left off. We were talking about Quranic tawheed. Now, for many people, they have a simplistic understanding of tawheed, perhaps what somebody would get in a Sunday school. They might think of tawheed as a mental construct. I believe that Allah is one and not two. I believe Allah is an immaterial God. That's some people's take. But the Quranic take on tawheed is going to be a game changer that changes everything. Brothers and sisters, as you know, reading along in the book, the leader has 6 takes on the concept of tawheed, and he explained to us this isn't all that's there to be said. 6 very important takes for us to all be getting from this. We started on the first, we've covered the first take. The first take, brothers and sisters, was us using tawheed to be our outlook on the world, our world view, according to tawheed. Then after that, we began, the title of the chapter was The Outcomes of Tawheed. We began to look at Tawheed as a framework for action, as an ideology. What does Tawheed mean to a committed Muslim? If I'm a committed Muslim, what responsibilities does Allah place on my shoulders if I believe in this? So the simple person, the person who has a simplistic understanding of Tawheed, might think that Tawheed means if it has ramifications, then they're on my personal life, my social life, maybe some small a'mal that I do. But when we look at Tawheed the right way, we'll see that it's a very big game changer. So we're going to look at some of those ways that Tawheed is going to make us different. But first, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, one of the things that we learned about Tawheed, and the leader said this is a little bit of a startling comment. He said that, because we're talking about the differences that Tawheed will make in our lives. If those differences aren't there for whatever reason, my life as a muwahhid is not very different than the life of a non-muwahhid. He says, really, there's not much difference between that Tawheed and shirk. Okay? So what are some of those things that are going to be there and going to be present in the lives of a muwahhid? Inshallah, we can take these, we can look at these, and we can start to examine our lives and see, inshallah, we see the signs of Tawheed that they're present. Now, the first one that we're going to look for as a sign of Tawheed is, how does Tawheed make my life different when it comes to my personal wealth? My personal wealth. Everybody's earning. How does Tawheed, if it's entered my life and entered my heart, how will that be different when it comes to my personal wealth? Brothers and sisters, one of the things that we learn about Tawheed is this. The way we view what we own and what everybody owns is that wealth, property, that which Allah has placed at our disposal is all an amana from Allah. It's all a trust from God. All of the wealth that we have is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith says this, Al-malu malullah. Wealth, property, is actually that of God's. Al-malu malullah, azza wa jal. Ja'alahu wada'i'a inda khalqih. God placed that wealth, as an amana in the hands of his creation. So where will it be different then if I'm truly a muwahhid? How can I test? The test, brothers and sisters, comes with attachment. How attached am I to my wealth? Example. So if a friend lent us some money, not lent us money personally, a friend said, I'm placing some money at your disposal, it's still my money, I'm putting it at your disposal, can you keep it for a little while? We're looking for the concept of attachment. And then every once in a while, that friend would call us and say, can you loan this amount of money to this person? Can you give this to this person? Can you buy this? Right? What kind of attachment would we feel to his money? We wouldn't feel anything. I'm just, okay, give it to this person. Burn it, or whatever. I mean, it's your thing. It's your money. No attachment for a muwahhid when it comes to our personal wealth. So we would just be waiting for instructions. So now we can test ourselves. How are we with our wealth? Right? It doesn't stop there though. Brothers and sisters, another test for the muwahhid is going to be how we deal with the loss of loved ones. Everyone in their lives, you and I, we're not going to always be here. At one stage of our lives, we're going to be burying either one of us will go first and then we'll be burying that person. Everybody loses people. For a muwahhid, we're going to see the effect of tawheed and how I deal with the loss of loved ones. There's a woman named Salim. She was one of the Ansar. What happened was, Salim, she and her husband, their son, one of their sons, their boys, he fell ill. He became terminally ill. And the father was obviously very, very worried. You know, you can see the son struggling, going back and forth. He's terminally ill. The wife noticed one day that the boy is about to pass. And the wife, Salim, told her husband, she said, go to Rasulullah. She sent him on some mission. Go ask some question. She got him out of the house. And the boy went back to Allah. When he went back to Allah, the mother told everyone else in the house, let me handle your father. Let me handle your father. Kept him in the corner of the room. She's making sure as a muwahhid, how he deals with the loss of loved ones is important. The husband came back. Boy's in the house. They still haven't buried him yet. Boy's in the house. When the husband comes back, he asks how his son is. And his wife stood at the entrance of his room. She said, let him be. The way that she used, the words that she used, led the man to believe he's resting. Perhaps she said, he's at peace, something like this. So the husband stops worrying for a moment, and he starts moving on to the rest of the day. They end up having, he says, is there anything to eat? They have a meal together. They spend the evening together. She does all of the things that you normally would do. And then now the mother has a conversation with the husband. She tells him, she says, can I ask you a question? He says, sure. She said that if they were a group of people and their neighbors lent them something, they put it at their disposal. Bismillah, you guys can use this. And they were using whatever that was. They enjoyed it. It was fun. It was great. But then the original owners said, can you return the amana? Can you give that back? And then this family got so angry and upset and why and furious, crying. The husband said, subhanallah, that's so wrong. They're crazy people. The wife said, and we're not crazy, right? He said, no, we're not crazy. She said, your son was an amana from Allah. And Allah took him back. And the husband was stunned. And he said, I'm the man. I'm supposed to have patience. You're this patient. He got up, he made the ghusl, he made salah, and then he went off to tell Rasulullah just what had happened, what this mother had done, a muwahhida, what she'd done. When he told the Prophet was so impressed. He made dua for her. He prayed for that family. He said, "Oh Allah, bless them for that night." And the child that they had as a result of that night became one of the best of the Ansar. So one of the ways that Tawheed affected us was in this loss of loved ones. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We're God's. He owns us. Now, it doesn't stop there though. How we're going to deal with ourselves and others, how we view ourselves and our accomplishments, how we view secular education is all going to be different if we're truly muwahhideen. This is another one where it's going to show up. So, our Prophet was in Medina, and a Christian came to Medina. And this Christian was very accomplished. They said he was very eloquent, very knowledgeable. And some of the Muslims, when they saw the secular education, the accomplishments, the eloquence, such a great speaker, some of the Muslims were blown away. And they told the Prophet, "Do you see how intelligent this man is? How I view myself, how I view others, how I view my achievements." The Prophet said, "Ma, silence. Inna al-aqil man wahhada Allah wa amila bi ta'atih." The person who's intelligent, who's accomplished, is the person who considers God to be one, tawheed, and acts according to his instructions. So how I view myself, how I view others, do I see myself as accomplished? The hadith is, al-aql ma ubida bihi ar-Rahman. Aql, intelligence, accomplishments, ma ubida bihi ar-Rahman, is that through which Allah is worshipped, the Rahman is worshipped. Waqtusiba bihi al-jinan, and paradise is earned. That's the measuring stick, if I'm truly a muwahhid. Another way that Tawheed will show up if we're really muwahhideen is going to be how we deal with lost opportunities and mistakes. There are times when people make mistakes. They lose out. Big mistakes. How the muwahhid views lost opportunities and mistakes is completely different to the non-muwahhid. The muwahhid, this is a measuring the measuring stick for us. The muwahhid never despairs. No matter what happened, great opportunities, I didn't do it right, I blew it. If I'm truly a muwahhid, it's a different take. Example. So, the way that we believe, a muwahhid believes in God, is that God is the person, or God is a God of second chances, a God of miracles. Amirul Mu'mineen says it best. He's addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Amirul Mu'mineen addresses God in this way. How do I view mistakes that I've made in the past? Ya rada ma qad fat. Allah is the one who brings back things that were lost. I lost that opportunity. I blew it. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't a great muwahhid. If I'm truly a muwahhid, does despair come into my heart or not? This is the measuring. I want to give you an example of somebody where this happened in their real life. And this example, brothers and sisters, is to kind of let us know what can be done if we do our job. So, brothers and sisters, we believe that the shuhada of Karbala are the greatest human beings to ever walk the earth. The shuhada, we say even our own shuhada, they are maybe better than the shuhada who were with Rasulullah in Badr or Hunayn. But they're not better than the shuhada of Karbala. No one is. No one ever will be. Now, were the shuhada of Karbala, were they perfect? Or did they make mistakes? Some of them had made mistakes in their lives. But we believe God is the God of second chances. A true muwahid never despairs. So I want to give you an example of one of the great shuhada, someone who's mentioned by name by Imam Mahdi. We have one of our beautiful ziyarah is ziyarah an-Nahiya, Imam Mahdi. Ziyarah an-Nahiya. And he mentions certain individuals by name. Said such and such. The Imam mentions them. So these are these kind of individuals. One of these people is a man whose name was Abu Thumama. Amr bin Abdullah, Abu Thumama. Abu Thumama, brothers and sisters, is a great man. Not just a good man, a great man, an incredible Muslim. So he is someone who was a companion of Amirul Mu'mineen and fought in all of those three major campaigns. This guy was with him. So we're talking about a grizzled veteran who put in the work. Amirul Mu'mineen. After that, he also supported Imam Hassan. So he's with Imam Hassan. And then in the time of Imam Hussein, he also makes it to Karbala. What better? They tell you a little bit about his story. What happened with Abu Thumama? So Abu Thumama, brothers and sisters, lived in Kufa. He's one of those individuals who wrote letters to the Imam, telling the Imam to come to Kufa. One of those individuals. When Muslim came to Kufa on behalf of the Imam, the wali of the time, when he came to Kufa, then in this stage, he was one of the main supporters. Brave man, known personality amongst the Shia. He was a weapons expert. And people would come and deliver money that was supposed to go to Muslim. A Muslim had put him in charge. The money would be at his disposal. He would be passing out. He would be buying the weapons. When the Qiyam of Muslim happened, the uprising, when they go and surround the Dar al-Amara, when they go and surround the palace of Ubaydullah, at this stage, he's one of the four commanders. Because Muslim had four commanders. One of the four commanders is Abu Thumama. They come to the palace, and there is what I mentioned last week. The people abandon the wali of the time. Tawa stood up, she supported, the people abandoned. And we don't hear about Abu Thumama supporting. That's a big mistake. Did Abu Thumama lose hope? Did he despair? I didn't support the wali of the time. What a terrible mistake. Muslim, nobody there. Did he despair? Did he beat himself up? No. They were looking for him in Medina and Kufa. The authorities were looking for him. The people who were part of the Qiyam, they were looking for him. He hid, and then he escaped, and he made it with Imam Hussein. He met Imam Hussein before he even came to Karbala. So let's say 1 or 2 days before the Imam arrives in Karbala, Abu Thumama is there. And then you see him there. He was someone who, when Ubaydullah bin Ziyad had sent Umar bin Sa'd with all those individuals, and the two armies are facing one another, and Umar bin Sa'd sent a messenger to go speak to Imam Hussein. Abu Thumama saw that man was from Kufa. He recognized him. He said, Kathir's coming? He said, no way, I can't let Kathir come and meet the Imam. He goes to meet Kathir. He says, you can't come to meet the Imam. He says, unless you drop your weapons. Kathir refuses. He says, well, I'm going to hold on to your sword, and you go meet the Imam. The man ends up going back. Abu Thumama is one of those individuals who, after the main battle began, right, arrows were coming. 50 of the companions were lost. Then it started going to the one-on-one battles. 2 individuals go out, 1 individual goes out, until the time for dhuhr comes. At the time of dhuhr, Abu Thumama is the one who tells the Imam, it's time for dhuhr. You're surrounded, there's no way that you're going to get out, but I want to pray this last prayer behind you. The Imam says, you're right. He says, may Allah make you, ja'alak Allah min al-musallin, al-dhakireen. He's this guy. And he fights, and later, eventually after the prayer, he's killed. So Abu Thumama made it. Following the wali of the time and connecting the dots is that important. It can make up for mistakes. Makes up for mistakes. Of course, brothers and sisters, this doesn't mean we want to make mistakes and then make up for them. Right? We want to always connect the dots. We want to always know who the wali of the time is. We want to always be there defending and supporting. Right? There's another story of the Ahlul Bayt. So the same Ahlul Bayt who've taught us this, you never despair. Ya rada ma qad fat. Right? God makes second opportunities come. They've also taught us the following point too. A muwahhid always wants to take advantage of good opportunities. Example. So what happened was, one of the companions of Imam Baqir tells a story. Imam Baqir. Quran tells us, as-sabiqun as-sabiqun. That's who we're trying to, as-sabiqun as-sabiqun. He tells the story. This companion of the Imam, Imam Baqir, says this. He says that I was sitting with the Imam and I told him that there's so few Shia who recognize the wali of the time and are ready to do their responsibility that if all of us sat and all of us ate a sheep, we wouldn't finish the sheep. There's so few of us. The Imam said, you want to hear something that's even more strange? What else is more strange than that? The Imam explained that after Rasulullah, everyone left except for, and the Imam put up 3 fingers. Everyone left except for 3. Salman made it. Miqdad made it. Abu Dhar made it. The person said, but Ammar made it. The Imam said, Ammar? Yes, he did. And later, Ammar died a shaheed. The guy who's telling the story says, in my heart of hearts, I thought to myself, well, what better? You connect the dots. Wali of the time, you die a shaheed. He said, the Imam read my mind. He said, you think Ammar is like the other 3? He said, hot. Never. The person who connected the dots and knew, not the person. Right? So, brothers and sisters, we don't want to say, well, Allah is the God of second chances. Well, I'll drop my guard. No. The idea is always to connect the dots, always to be doing our responsibility. Salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, up until now, we've been talking about the outcome of tawheed. If I'm a muwahhid, if I truly believe in Allah, what will it do to me? There's going to be a practical difference between me and a non-muwahhid. We talked about earning. We talked about loss of life or property, how we feel about our personal wealth, opportunity, lost opportunity. There are other areas, other dimensions where tawheed is going to show up if it's truly in our hearts. One of those areas is going to be in our social lives. Socially, also, tawheed is going to demonstrate itself. If you have a community, a society, which is founded on tawheed, then suddenly all of the racial barriers disappear. All of the ethnic differences disappear. All of the social differences, one person's from this class, one person's from that class, all of that disappears. The way that a tawheedi society lives is like this hadith from Rasulullah. The Prophet says, Kullukum min Adam. Each and every one of you, our father. Wa Adam min Turab. And Prophet Adam was made of dirt. So a tawheedi society is going to be one like that. Classes, ethnic differences, all of that stuff gets washed away in the water of tawheed. This is one of those areas that you see Muslims struggle with. It's easy to say, but a real muwahhid looks at taqwa. The taqwa of an individual is all that I see, all that I judge by. The closest person to God, inna akramakum inda Allah atqakum. However much God is present in your life. Not your money, not your status, not who you're connected to, not your family. We talked about it a little bit when we talked about the concept of tawheed as a worldview. We said that there was one camp, which was God himself, and then the other camp was everyone and everything else. Everything else is a slave of God. We're all partners in ubudiyah. So that's another one of those areas where that comes. Now, brothers and sisters, our social and political lives also differ if we've embraced tawheed. If tawheed is present in my heart, then socially and politically, I'm going to be different. One of the areas that tawheed's going to manifest itself is not only my own community, but how I feel about the global community. A person who is a muwahhid feels responsible to liberate the globe from tyranny. What is tawheed? Tawheed, brothers and sisters, means that Allah and Allah alone rules every aspect of my life, whether it's my personal wealth, whether it's my interactions with others, whether it's international politics, everything, whether it's who rules, everything is determined by God. We're going to cover the ayat later, but serving and believing in and following a system, even a government, other than one that has been sanctioned by God is oppression, dhulm. Someone needs to be liberated. There's another story that they tell. This story is about a Muslim soldier who goes to meet a Persian king. So the Muslim armies have arrived in Iran, and now there's going to be high-level diplomatic discussions between the Persian king and the Muslim army. So the Persian king, expecting that it would be a normal meeting, is sitting there in his robes and his thrones and his expensive Persian carpet and decked out. We're going to meet the other side. And the Muslims sent a man named Rabi'i ibn Amir. Now Rabi'i, brothers and sisters, came in completely simple, still wearing his battle gear, sword, spear, riding his horse, and he comes over to meet the Persian king. When he came to meet the Persian king, then he came fully armed, still had his battle helmet on. And the people who were there, they said, well, you can't come and meet the Shah like this. You have to take off that helmet. You're in the presence of the Shah. And the Muslim soldiers said that, I didn't come here on my own. You invited me. No intimidation, no diplomatic protocol. If you don't like it, I'll go back. And the Shah told him, he said, let the soldier come as he is. So they said that the soldier came in and he stalked his way right up to where the king was. They said his spear, he was poking it in the Persian rug and walking as he came right up to the thing. Unintimidated, this civilization, the kingdom, the money. Not intimidated at all. When he got close to the king, then the king said, what sends you guys? Why are you here? And the Muslim said something. He said, God sent us. لِنُخْرِجَ الْعِبَادِ. In order, so I said, لِنُخْرِجْ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْ عِبَادَةِ الْعِبَادِ. He said, why are we here? God sent us. Why did God send us? To deliver, to rescue whoever is willing min ibadatil ibad, from worshiping other people. Ibadatil ibad. And to deliver them ila ibadatillah, to make them muwahhideen. Tawheed means freedom from all of these systems and only worshiping God. So, Tawheed, the other way that we said it's going to manifest is my responsibility to the global community, to deliver everyone. Allow me to mention one of my favorite stories of our shuhada. One of our shuhada is named Ahmad Mutawassiliyan. So Ahmad Mutawassiliyan, they were still in the middle of the war with Iran and Iraq at that time. And Ahmad Mutawassiliyan went to Lebanon, because they were saying, okay, the responsibility is to take on the big Taghut himself, to go to Israel. And he wanted something like this. So he came to Lebanon, and Sheikh Panahian says that he was giving a speech. And when he was giving a speech, then Shahid Mutawassiliyan said this. He said, wherever there is a Muslim, and that Muslim calls out, Ya lil Muslimin, then we're going to go to that area of the earth, and we will liberate that Muslim. But he didn't stop there. Sheikh Panahian said, and then he said, and wherever there isn't a Muslim, we will plant a Muslim. That Muslim will say, Ya lil Muslimin, and we'll go there until we... Right? The global society needs to be liberated. Right? One of the ways that Tawheed manifests itself is that all of these government systems, other than one designated by God, are dhalim. They're oppressive. See, brothers and sisters, back in the day, this is one for us to kind of take apart though. Not now, I'm going to just cover the ayat of the Quran, but just for us to think about. Back in the day, a government system would have a strong man. It would be easy to say, let's say we were alive in the time of Saddam, and there's a strong man, a dictator, an evil dictator, and he's ruling over the people. It might be easy for the simple person to say, well, yes, this form of government is dhalim. Ibadatul ibad. He does with them whatever he pleases. He kills them, he takes them, he murders, right? Ibadatul, this might be clear to see. What's more difficult is something that we learn from Allama Tabatabai. Actually, brothers and sisters, democracy, secular democracy where you can vote, where you get to call the president Sleepy Joe. How could that be? Ibadatul ibad. I'm voting. I'm choosing. What happens, brothers and sisters, and this is something for us to take about and be able to explain to people. We'll cover the ayat where we're going to say that all of these non-divine systems are dhalim. We'll cover the ayat. But this part of being able to take it apart. Why? Dhulm in these countries is hidden behind laws. In the good old days, let's say the Zalimin were going to Africa. The Zalimin would go and they would round up a group of people, put them on a boat, take them. It's easy to see. That's ibadatul ibad. The more difficult way, the subtler way, is to see how it's dhulm now. But dhulm hidden behind laws. I'll give you some examples. But there's something each one of us, we can take apart. Right? The laws make it that oppression doesn't, it seems, it doesn't seem like ibadatul ibad, right? Until you don't use someone's preferred pronouns. Then suddenly you realize that, no, there's an agenda here. They're serious. You could lose your livelihood. And then you go deeper and you see, well, what other laws are there that are stopping people from worshiping God? In the most secular countries, you'll see, for instance, Muslim sisters who want to wear the hijab. She's a muhajjaba. She'll come there. Somebody at the gate of the university, you will remove that clothing. Other people get to choose whatever they want. you will remove this, and then you will enter. You see it so much in how the peoples of the world are treated. The oppression in the proxy wars like Ukraine, and the prison systems here, and what happens if you don't have money, how you're treated, and you dealt with the law. You'll see that over there. And then even the political system that I said is zalim itself. Here, there isn't a direct vote, is there? There's a house of electors. Is that house of electors, or at least by law, they're compelled to even vote the same way that we, the elected, the masses, that we voted? No, not even by law. So they have it controlled inside and out, but it's tyranny hidden behind laws. Now, the Quran's going to be very direct, though. Now we're going to go to our ayat of the Quran. Remember the concept. We're going to go to Surah Baqarah, but the concept is going to be taking someone to allow that person to rule in the stead of God is shirk, is dhulm, it's oppression. Brothers and sisters, if you can turn with me to Surah Baqarah, and we'll read together from verse number 165. 165. We'll see that these verses, although it's talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's going to be directly related to what happens right now and the concept of tawheed or shirk, dhulm and oppression. Okay? So brothers and sisters, if you're with me then on Surah Baqarah 165, God says this, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, so among the people, from the people, some of the people, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا. Amongst the people are some who take others as equal with God. Brothers and sisters, Quranic Tawheed is not simple, don't worship a stone idol. No, they take others as equals with God. يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. They love these other false gods, many gods, false deities, like people should love God. Then God stops here. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But those who are believers, they love God more. You can't compare the love of a muwahhid for God to these false gods, whether it be the god of the nafs, or these external gods, a stone god, or human gods. God now takes us to Yawm al-Qiyamah, to the day of judgment. And now on Yawm al-Qiyamah, everybody's standing there. The good guys and the bad guys. Muwahhideen, non-muwahhideen. You can see the blessings of paradise. You can also see the chastisement of hell. At this stage, God says, وَلَوْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. If those who had done dhulm, right? We said that taking these non-divine systems, these secular democracies, these Bidens, not only the Saddams, and right? وَلَوْ يَرَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. If those who had done dhulm, if they saw إِذْ يَرَوْنَ الْعَذَابِ, when they see the chastisement of God, and they come to a realization. So they see the chastisement of God. Where do they come to this realization? أَنَّ الْقُوَّةَ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا. That all power belongs to God. Why was it that I would obey my boss, or such and such law, or such and such person, right? And then to see on that day, everyone's powerless. The person who I was killing myself for is also powerless. I'm powerless. أَنَّ الْقُوَّةَ لِلَّهِ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ جَمِيعًا وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعَذَابِ. And Allah is severe in chastising. Then something else happens that breaks the heart of the non-muwahhid. What happens at that stage? God says, إِذْ تَبَرَّأَ الَّذِينَ تُبِعُوا مِنَ الَّذِينَ تَبَعُوا. Those who were followed distanced themselves from those who followed them. Some people were loyal soldiers following the Taghut. We voted in last election. We believe in change. We obeyed. And then you see Sleepy Joe, because he'll have his wits together then, and he will distance himself Saddam will distance himself from those who are his loyal followers. I died for you. I went through hell and earth for you. The God says that they will distance themselves. Astaghfirullah. You are terrible. How dare you have taken me as a God? By obeying. Boy, so they'll see that they'll distance themselves. وَرَأَوُا الْعَذَابِ. And they'll also see the chastisement. وَتَقَطَّعَتْ بِهِمُ الْأَسْبَابِ. Now there's no excuses, there's no connections, there's no anything. At this stage, those who are followers, those who believed in the system, those who said it can be changed from within, those people, the zalimeen, who took them as gods, anyone other than God, they will say, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوا. The followers will say, لَوْ أَنَّ لَنَا كَرَّةً. If only we could go back to earth. فَنَتَبَرَّأْ مِنْهُمْ كَمَا تَبَرَّؤُوا مِنَّا. We would have distanced ourselves from them the same way they're now distancing themselves from us. Well, at that stage, كَذَلِكَ يُرِيهِمُ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُم. It'll be too late then. God will show them just how real it was when you obeyed a non-divine authority. He will show them their a'mal. حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. They will want to kill themselves with grease. Hasra. وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ. And they will never come out of the fire. So brothers and sisters, we end today reminding ourselves as the practical effects of tawheed. Our next take on tawheed is going to be a different one, but we end with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Shaykhna. Inshallah, if we can recite another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you to everybody who came out and to everybody who's watching online. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to really internalize and act upon these teachings of the Holy Quran. Inshallah, next week on Friday at the same time, we will, as Shaykh mentioned, have the next lesson from the series. And then the following week after that, also as Shaykh had mentioned, inshallah, the hope is, if Allah gives tawfiq, to be able to gather together for Yawm Arafah to perform some of the a'mal, and then the Eid prayer as well. So if brothers and sisters could just kind of stay tuned on the social media, the WhatsApp, for those announcements, inshallah. With that, thank you again to everybody for coming out. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة. إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثة فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون